Hello everyone, this is Colin once again. I know I haven't made a video in a while, I've been busy with work and school, but I wanted to come on here and make a video about a number of different topics. First thing I wanted to talk about is I know I made a video a while back called The Young Cult, and that was a refutation to Richard Knoll's book, who's a clinical psychologist who has written two polemical works against Carl Jung, one of which is The Young Cult, the other one is called The Aryan Christ. I was going to record a video and talk about my problems with the Aryan Christ, but I thought that I would hold off on that and just post the article that I included with my video called The Young Cult, which is just a great refutation to both of his books. Having read Richard Knoll's book, both of his books, I have to say, that I'm not convinced by his assertions, mainly because if anyone actually reads Carl Jung's works and reads any of the available biographies on Jung, you will find that with the fallacies he commits, the limit of his scope of vision is why his argument is not convincing. Another thing also is I've read two books by the Jungian scholar. He has his PhD in history of science with an emphasis in psychology, named Sono Shamdasani, who's the editor of the Red Book, and I've done a video on the Red Book as well. And Shamdasani has wrote two books. One is called Jung in the Making of Modern Psychology, and the other one is called Jung Stripped Bare by his biographers. Even that's the title of the whole book of that second book. And what both these books do is they basically refute Richard Knoll directly or indirectly. He's written a third book called Cult Fictions, which is the direct refutation of Richard Knoll. But what Shamdasani does a great job of doing as a scholar, as an actual scholar of analytical psychology, he puts Jung in his historical context, shows the evolution of Jung's theories, shows how they are based in empirical psychological science, and he then goes on in the second book to show that every biography of Jung on the market is very flawed because of scholarship that he's documented, misuse of archived material, misrepresentation of archived material, making assumptions not based in any evidence, claiming you have references and not having any references. And these are things that he's documented in all the available biographies on Jung. And he basically thinks that until all of Jung's works are translated and available on the market, all his letters, all his personal journals are made available for people to study, we will not have a definitive article of Jung, biography of Jung. Not to say you can't learn anything from reading these biographies, but this is something that needs to be addressed, and something that people need to keep in mind, to be skeptical of biographies when you're reading them. And I guess you could say that for any biography, because it's one person commenting on another human being. So I wanted to talk about that. That's one thing. Another thing I wanted to point out is that in Richard Knoll's book in particular, and also Miss Baer, B-A-I-R, I think her name's Diane, but she wrote a biography on Jung, and both Knoll and Baer mention this idea that Jung stole the idea of the collective unconscious from a student or a colleague of his when he was working at the mental institution in Switzerland. And Shamdasani points out that this is preposterous because the idea of the collective unconscious did not originate with Carl Jung, and he himself admits this in his works. This is an idea that goes all the way back to Immanuel Kant, and even as old as Aristotle and Plato. But his colleague, with that in mind, there were other people in their time that were talking about this idea. So to say that he stole this from his colleague or his student is it's ridiculous. It's ignorant. So I just wanted to touch on those points. Another thing I wanted to talk about before I get into the meat of this video is that I did an article response to a video that the Council of Ex-Muslims made here on YouTube, where they're asking 20 questions to Muslims. And on my blog, and I'll put it in the description section, I did a response. I answered all 20 of their questions. So for those of you interested in that, go ahead and check that out. Now, what's the point of this actual video? This video is sort of the nucleus of a series that I'm going to be making on psychological or personality types. I've read Carl Jung's book called Psychological Types. I've been doing a lot of reading on Jungian analysts and their articles on personality types. And I want to do several videos talking about this subject because I find it fascinating, this idea of personality types and how different we are on a subjective level and how we view reality and process information. And so I'm going to put a link in the description section that's going to lead you to a website that has a personality test. And I asked this question to people I know in person to see if there was any correlation between religious belief or lack thereof and personality type. I was just curious. And so it'd be great if those of you who are interested want to take this personality test. And what you're going to do is you're going to click on the link and you're going to see two columns, left column and right column, and you're going to want to take the test that says Jung plus Enneagram test, and it'll, in parentheses, it'll say 108 items, and I don't even think it's 108. I think that I don't think that's actually true. But you're going to take a series of questions, and when you hit your results, it'll tell you your personality type. And it'd be great if people would like to post the series. You're going to get a series of 4 letters. So for example, you might get something that says ENFJ. For an example, you basically type that and then put what's your religious background. That's all you have to do. I'm just curious. I will tell you in advance that I was finding no correlation between religious belief, lack thereof, and personality type. So what that basically means is that your personality type has nothing to do with your religious belief, as far as if you do believe or you don't believe. The idea is that maybe because of your personality type, you process the information of belief differently from somebody else. And what I mean by that is Jung talks about this, the difference between like the early church father Origen and Tertullian. Both Christians, but the way they came to understand their belief is totally different. And I'll talk about this in future videos. I'm also going to put a link to Wikipedia and their article on personality types. And I do this not because, I think that their article is excellent, but because when you take the test, you're going to want to know, what does this mean? So because I'm not going to be making any videos on this for probably another week, maybe, five days from now, who knows, I want you guys to be able to look up your personality types. And you'll find some stuff on that website with the test. But this is like, in layman's terms, great summary. It just tells you, bam, these are the basics of each of these personality types. And I'm not pretending to be an expert on personality types. So, like, you can share this information, but, if you may message me and go, hey, I got this, isn't that cool? And I'll go, yeah, congrats, but I'm not, I'm not a professional, so I can't, tell you these deep, things about your personality. I can't. So, this is just because this is on the internet. It's a website. I've taken the test, and a lot of people who have, and so it's fascinating. But it's not an in-depth thing. So don't try not to take it too seriously. I know one thing I've read is that if the description makes sense to you, like that sounds like it's you, then okay then. But nobody can tell you exactly. So yeah, so in the near future, I plan on making videos about this subject in more detail. I may just go into in detail about the different elements of Jung's theory on personality types, as supplemented by more modern Jungian analyst, and just maybe I'll read out of Jung's book. There's a couple passages in his book that I find really fascinating, something to think about. So I will be doing that in the near future. And if anybody has any suggestions for videos they'd like to see me do, topics they'd like to see me talk about as well, I'm always open for suggestions. So yeah, I hope you're all doing good, and I will hopefully make a video sooner rather than later. Take care. Peace be with you all.